Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing great. I enjoyed your discussion online this week, and I'm glad I sort of took a back seat to that. It's important that you participate at least twice and thoughtfully, and that I get some sense that you've actually done the readings. And I thought there was a really nice give and take, and I want to congratulate Autumn for doing this wonderful facilitation completely by herself, and I am looking forward to this week's discussion as well. Y'all seem to really be making, for the most part, a conscientious effort. And again, I do hope that you will at least revisit the site twice during the week and make a nice contribution. And I learn a lot from what you have to say. Okay, so now we are moving on to the Autobiography of Malcolm X, which, to my mind, is one of the best autobiographies ever written. Of course, there was a writer behind it, the author Alex Haley, and in fact, he was an artist at interviewing and putting together interviews, and in this case, weaving it all together in one of the most compelling books I've ever read. Here is let's see if I can get this to you. Can you see that? Alex Haley, you may know him. He was a very, very dear friend of mine. If you look Alex Haley up, like on Wikipedia or anywhere else, you'll see that he was the author of Roots and that he won a special Pulitzer Prize for that work. Extraordinary human being. But I actually think that his best work was the Autobiography of Malcolm X. Alex Haley was an amazing interviewer. He did a series of interviews that appeared in Playboy magazine decades ago that were just extraordinary. One of them, for instance, with Miles Davis, the jazz musician, composer who never opened up to anybody. It was one of the best interviews I've ever read, was the one that Haley did with Miles Davis. This one with Malcolm X, the Autobiography of Malcolm X, is just an amazing piece of work in every sense. I think that you will see as you immerse yourselves in it, and I truly hope you do to the point that you almost forget about time. It's such riveting reading. That I'm hoping what you'll ask yourself, among other questions, is Malcolm X, who at one point espoused militancy and separation from white America, is he really that different from Dr. King? Is he different at all from Dr. King? Did they come at things from very different paths, but ultimately did they meet? Did they have a did they intersect? And were they that different, if at all? And if so, how so? And how might they both be both models of personal autonomy at a time when black Americans were so constricted in terms of their rights and their legal human freedoms and unconstitutionally restricted? But how might they be both paradigms of personal autonomy, similar ways, different ways? And what was their goal? Were their goals remarkably similar? Or did they diverge at times? And did they dovetail and coalesce at times? What were that led ultimately to kinds of human freedoms that people are still struggling for today? I think minorities and the marginalized more than anybody. And sometimes it can be, and who aren't today in so many ways, carrying on the struggle of both Malcolm and Martin Luther King. Did Malcolm X, was he necessary in order for Martin Luther King to advance his nonviolent movement? Did Malcolm X, but ultimately, they just met one time in their entire lives, but did they need each other in a sense in order for both to fulfill their higher aspirations for themselves and for society and for black Americans in particular? Malcolm X's story, without, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's one of spiritual awakening, self-transformation. He was a very different person by the time, just as with Martin Luther King, he also met with a very violent end. But he lived a life journey that is remarkable, incomparable in a way that, and again, as with Dr. King, you have to ask yourself, were these almost, was it predictable that they would find themselves in such circumstances and emerge as leaders, or was it highly accidental and unpredictable that both would do so? Their stories are very, very different, each singularly extraordinary in their unique ways. I don't want to go into more than that, but just ask yourselves as you read this story, as you really pour over the introduction and then start diving into the chapters. It's just reads like a novel. It's and it's as compelling as it gets, in my humble opinion. That how this man over time, after his journey to Mecca, and how his mind and heart open to other possibilities and sensibilities for himself and for American society, and placing American society in a much greater context, and other struggles for human rights and human freedoms among people who had very little self-autonomy, personal autonomy. And I'll look forward to, I'm not sure how many lectures like this I'll give as the readings go on. I'm not sure how necessary they are. I'll look at your one-line discussions and see where things are going. Of course, I'm available all the time, as anybody who's tried to contact me knows, and we can set up very quickly a Zoom. And I've really enjoyed the Zoom give and takes that I've had with a number of you now. But just be in touch with me, and be sure to always periodically check the announcements section of our course, just to make sure that I have or haven't posted something. I tend to post pretty much twice a week, but it just depends. And I'm mostly really looking forward to the facilitation of the discussions, of the online discussions, and then to your response papers. The next set of response papers is due, there, I think, actually this week. So make sure that those are turned in by Friday at noon Mountain Time at the latest. And I think I posted that on the syllabus as well. Thanks so much.